as you point out, a really important one. You didn't vote for President Biden or for uncommitted in Minnesota's primary. The uncommitted vote was a big part of that primary in your home state. I wonder, if the election were held today, would you vote for Joe Biden? Can you confirm that he would have your vote today?
Of course, democracy is on the line. We are facing down fascism. And I personally know what my life felt like having Trump as the president of this country. And I know what it felt like for my constituents and for people around this country and around the world. We have to do everything that we can to make sure that does not happen to our country again.
And do you think your constituents ultimately will come to the same conclusion that you did, the tens of thousands who voted uncommitted as a protest against the president?
Well, the uncommitteds have been very clear. They want a change in policy, and we've seen that. Within 3 days, you had the vice president using the word ceasefire. We now have the president saying there is a red line if Israel goes into Rafah, that he is going to condition aid. So there has been a significant progress. I think it is the responsibility of every citizen of this country that cares for the humanity of all to continue to push this administration to do what it can do to end the onslaught that Palestinians are living through every single day.
All right.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about probably one of my favorite stories of 2024. The story that could possibly cost Joe Biden the election, okay? The Achilles heel of the Democrats, which is currently the Democrat civil war over this issue of Israel and what's going on in Gaza, okay? The operation that they're conducting that they say is for self-defense, in which it just so happens that a lot of Palestinian civilians are losing their lives because of Israel trying to get rid of Hamas, who conducted an attack on their citizens on October 7th. And ever since then, it has been nothing but chaos within the Democrat caucus, okay? Because you have some Democrats that are staunchly pro-Israel, and then you have other Democrats, the progressive types, that are staunchly pro-Palestine, okay? And that has caused some problems for Joe Biden and Democrats, so much so that the pro-Israel Democrats are now changing tune, okay? And it is kicking up because they see the writing on the wall in regards to how there were a ton of people that decided to come out and vote uncommitted over Joe Biden, particularly in the Michigan and Minnesota primaries, two swing states that Joe Biden desperately needs to win in order to beat Trump in 2024. So I want to talk about that, okay? Because now you have even CNN trashing Democrats that are pro-Palestine, like, for example, Ilhan Omar, who just so happened to not vote for Joe Biden in the primary, but she did indicate that she's going to vote for Joe Biden in the general. That did not stop CNN from coming out here and trashing Ilhan Omar for calling for a ceasefire when it comes to this conflict between Israel and Hamas. Take a look.
No, she's a Democrat. They're going to vote for Biden. I'm not surprised about that. I am surprised that in the year of our Lord, 2024, there is a public relations agent for Hamas sitting in the United States Congress. The reason Israel is not at that meeting is because Hamas will not provide a list of the living hostages. I didn't hear a word of concern for the hostages. Ceasefire, she said, don't happen magically. Well, there was a ceasefire in place on October the 6th. And who broke it on October the 7th? I cannot believe, honestly, what I heard out of that interview. What I want are for those hostages to come home. And I want somebody out there to show just a little bit of remorse that Hamas broke the ceasefire, raped and murdered horrifically women, all kinds of people. That's it. How about a little bit of concern for those folks? That's what I'm looking for.
And I just want to be clear, when I said a second ago about not pointing fingers, we all know that Hamas is the one that started this and Hamas is the one that has to come to the table. The question is now, how do we get to a ceasefire? And that means that all the parties in the region are going to have to be present to make that happen.
Ilhan Omar there took this opportunity and your very important platform to say that Hamas was the good actor here. Hamas was ready for this meeting. And based on some conspiracy theory, our, Jake Sullivan, American representative, is maybe lying about what Israel wants to do and Israel's involvement. Look, I would not go to someone who is a supporter of the BDS movement for their advice on what Israel should do. Or what the U.S. should do when it comes to Israel. She's trafficked in anti-Semitic tropes that seek to strip Israel and the Jewish people of their sovereignty, their identity. I don't trust her opinion on this issue at all. And listen, there are important voices for the Palestinian people. She's not one of them.
Yeah, wow, right? CNN just straight trashing Ilhan Omar, okay? Trashing Ilhan Omar to the point where the woke Democrats are upset, right? They're boohoo, whining, and crying Islamophobia. Like, for example, AOC tweeted this out. She said, how on earth is this kind of blatant Islamophobia so casually accepted without pushback? This is shocking. Corey Bush says, Scott Jennings' comments are reminiscent of the anti-Muslim bigotry we saw in the George Bush post-9/11 era. It is disgusting and must not be normalized. CNN should denounce this hateful, dangerous, and blatant Islamophobia immediately. Ayanna Presley says, blatant Islamophobia has no place in our society, let alone on primetime TV. It's dangerous, unacceptable, and cannot be normalized. Got your back, Ilhan. Minnie Hassan says, discussing racism and Islamophobia from Scott Jennings on CNN. Waleed Shahid says, Scott Jennings is reverting to one of the oldest Islamophobic tropes in the book, which is to allege that Muslim Americans are secretly terrorist sympathizers. People have been fired from CNN for much less. Okay, so yeah, as you can see here, the woke revolutionaries are upset, right? And look, I just want to be clear here. Just because you support Palestine doesn't mean that you're woke, right? I mean, I know that on both sides of the aisle, you have people that do think that there should be a ceasefire. They may overtly support Palestine or not. But when I'm talking about the left, okay, when you talk about the left, an overwhelming majority of the progressive left support Palestine, okay? So I don't want people to get it twisted, okay? You can be on the right and support Palestine. There are people on the right that actually do support Palestine. There's just not that many of them, right? Or put it this way. Maybe they just don't like Israel that much, right? Or maybe they don't think that Israel is completely innocent when it comes to everything, right? I'm just saying, like, opinions vary across the political spectrum. I just want to be careful not to generalize, and I feel like sometimes I do. But anyways, with that being said, I don't think that what Scott Jennings said, even though it was harsh, I don't think that what he said was Islamophobic, right? I don't think that anything they said on that panel was Islamophobic. They just don't agree with her wanting a ceasefire, okay? And, to say that she sympathizes with Hamas, that might be a little bit overboard, but at the same time, I'm not sure exactly where the Islamophobia is coming in here, okay? These people love pulling out the bigotry card instead of actually making an argument, okay? Making an argument for why Ilhan Omar is correct, if you believe that she's correct, rather than boohoo, whining, and crying Islamophobia, right? But I got to tell you guys, I do enjoy the back and forth between the mainstream liberal media and the civil war between the Democrats on this issue, okay? Because it is tearing them apart. I'm a third-party observer in the sense that me personally, hey, I'm neutral, right? I mean, to me, I don't like seeing the loss of innocent life, okay, in any conflict. But then again, Israel did get attacked, okay? And quite honestly, I don't have a say in regards to how they're supposed to respond. I don't know, right? It is war, technically. So at the end of the day, I feel bad for all the innocent people involved, okay? And that's what my stance is, right? That's where I'm at when it comes to this issue. But, I do enjoy seeing the conflict that is happening politically within the Democrat Party, okay? Because if they destroy themselves, that increases the chance of Trump becoming president again, and which I'm pretty sure when Trump becomes president, he will probably work to resolve that conflict in a peaceful manner, right? So with that being said, okay, Democrats, establishment Democrats that were once pro-Israel, they are now not only demanding a ceasefire, it's something that Joe Biden has come out and basically said that he's working towards. In fact, he's been trashing Netanyahu and calling for a two-state solution as well, which seems to be something that Israel doesn't really want. They don't want a two-state solution. I don't think the Palestinians really want a two-state solution either, but who knows? Regardless, Netanyahu didn't really appreciate Joe Biden's comments in regards to calling for a ceasefire and establishing a red line when it comes to the idea of a full-scale invasion of Rafah, which is a city in Gaza that the Biden administration doesn't want Israel to conduct a full-scale operation to target, and pushing for a two-state solution, and also allegedly trash talking about Netanyahu behind closed doors.
Well, I don't know exactly what the president meant, but if he meant by that I'm pursuing private policies against the majority, the wish of the majority of Israelis, and that this is hurting the interests of Israel, then he's wrong on both counts. Number one, these are not my private policies only. They're policies supported by the overwhelming majority of the Israelis. They support the action that we're taking to destroy the remaining terrorist battalions of Hamas. They say that once we destroy the Hamas, the last thing we should do is put in Gaza, in charge of Gaza, the Palestinian Authority that educates its children towards terrorism and pays for terrorism. And they also support my position that says that we should resoundingly reject the attempt to ram down our throats a Palestinian state. That is something that they agree on, and it's something that I think is also for the interests of Israel, because the majority of Israelis understand that if we don't do this, what we'll have is a repetition of the October 7th massacre, which is bad for Israel, bad for the Palestinians, bad for the future of peace in the Middle East. So the attempt to say that my policies are my private policies that are not supported by most Israelis is false. The vast majority are united as never before, and they understand what's good for Israel.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Netanyahu basically told Biden to F off, right? Kick rocks. Okay, this is my country, and I'm going to run it the way I see fit in regards to this invasion, okay? Which, you know, hey, Biden, again, he's been saying, look, we have red lines in regards to what you can and you can't do, okay? You can't invade Rafah after telling the Palestinians to go into that city to seek shelter there and then turn around and invade a city with a bunch of civilians. But hey, you know, this is what Netanyahu's choosing to do. He's saying, look, I'm going to do it my way. And yeah, you can kick rocks, okay? And the Biden administration is responding by escalating. Now you have Chuck Schumer coming out and demanding that there is regime change in Israel, essentially calling for an election to have Netanyahu removed as the leader of that country. Take a look.
The fourth major obstacle to peace is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who has all too frequently bowed to the demands of extremists like Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and the settlers in the West Bank. I have known Prime Minister Netanyahu for a very long time. While we have vehemently disagreed on many occasions, I will always respect his extraordinary bravery for Israel on the battlefield as a younger man. I believe in his heart he has his highest priority is the security of Israel. However, I also believe Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel. He has put himself in coalition with far-right extremists like Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, and as a result, he has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows. Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah. Prime Minister Netanyahu has also weakened Israel's political and moral fabric through his attempts to co-opt the judiciary, and he has shown zero interest in doing the courageous and visionary work required to pave the way for peace, even before this present conflict. As a lifelong supporter of Israel, it has become clear to me the Netanyahu coalition no longer fits the needs of Israel after October 7th. The world has changed radically since then, and the Israeli people are being stifled right now by a governing vision that is stuck in the past. Nobody expects Prime Minister Netanyahu to do the things that must be done to break the cycle of violence, to preserve Israel's credibility on the world stage, and to work towards a two-state solution. If he were to disavow Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and kick them out of his governing coalition, that would be a real meaningful step forward. But regrettably, there's no reason to believe Prime Minister Netanyahu would do that. He won't disavow Ministers Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in their calls for Israelis to drive Palestinians out of Gaza and the West Bank. He won't commit to a military operation in Rafah that prioritizes protecting civilian life. He won't engage responsibly in discussions about a day-after plan for Gaza and a longer-term pathway to peace. Hamas and the Palestinians who support and tolerate their evil ways, radical right-wing Israelis in government and society, President Abbas, Prime Minister Netanyahu. These are the four obstacles to peace. And if we fail to overcome them, then Israel and the West Bank and Gaza will be trapped in the same violent state of affairs they've experienced for the last 75 years.
Wow. Yeah. So you seen that, you heard that. Okay. Chuck Schumer calling for an end to the Netanyahu-led government in Israel. Again, isn't it funny how that worked, right? When our pet project in Israel, when they don't go along what we want, right? We want to kick out the government. Amazing how that works. I thought they told us that we're not supposed to interfere in other people's elections, that the United States doesn't do that, right? It seems like that's what we're trying to do in Israel, okay? I mean, we would be upset, right, if some other foreign country, like, for example, Russia, was to try to interfere in the U.S.'s elections and to say, hey, you need to elect Trump, right? You need to put Trump in office. We'd be screaming, right? We'd be screaming at the top of our lungs, okay? Stay out of our elections. Apparently, that doesn't apply when we're trying to interfere with other people's elections. But hey, you know, it is what it is. I mean, we do give Israel a lot of money. So, I mean, hey, at the end of the day, you know, I guess they're supposed to do what we say, right? But again, Democrats are only doing this, okay? They're only doing this because they see the writing on the wall. They're in full-blown panic over the fact that there are a ton of people that came out and chose to vote against Joe Biden, chose to vote uncommitted in the Democrat primary, which could signal a loss for Joe Biden in the general election, okay? This is full-blown panic mode, because otherwise, if that didn't happen, they wouldn't be doing this, right? They wouldn't give a damn. They'd be totally fine with what's happening, right? They only changed, okay, because of the primary, okay? And it looks like Joe Biden is going to have a hard time getting people out to vote. I know y'all remember just a few weeks ago when Nancy Pelosi was calling the pro-Palestinian leftists Russian and Chinese assets, right? They came from China, right? They were being funded by Russia. Okay, this is what the Democrats were saying just a few weeks ago. Now, all of a sudden, after the primary and these, you know, voters showing Democrats, hey, we're not going to vote for you. Now, all of a sudden, they're trying to call for Netanyahu to get up on out of there, right? They're trying to do regime change in Israel. Again, it's crazy how that works, okay? But with that being said, who knows if this will actually work? In fact, there was an interview between CNN and Dearborn, Michigan mayor, in which he said that, hey, calling for regime change is not enough, okay? You actually have to have a change in policy if you want our vote. Take a look.
We've had Vice President Harris calling in more forceful terms for a ceasefire. The president announced during the State of the Union that the military would be building a port in Gaza to deliver aid. He has been extremely critical of Netanyahu. He was caught on a hot mic. I'm sure you heard that. What have you thought of what have been significant rhetorical changes, at least? Has that gone anywhere?
Certainly, you know, pressure works. You see that there is a difference in tone where there's now a recognition of Palestinian suffering. But what I would tell you is that words are not enough. What we want to see is actual change in policy. We want to see actually holding Benjamin Netanyahu and the most right-wing government in Israel's history to account. You heard Senator Schumer's remarks today on the floor demonstrating that pressure works, calling for the distancing and, in fact, the replacing of Benjamin Netanyahu as the prime minister, as well as calling upon President Biden and utilizing our ability and our tool to restrict military funding as a means of trying to find ourselves towards a just solution for the Palestinian people.
Well, you mentioned what Senator Schumer said, the Senate Majority Leader, calling for new elections in Israel. Would that make a difference to you? Do you think it would make a difference who leads Israel in the type of war that would be prosecuted? And how much of a difference does that make to you that he specifically is calling for that?
We have been sounding the alarm about Benjamin Netanyahu for over 2 decades, knowing that he is a fascist and a war tyrant and a war criminal. And he has been one of the individuals who gloats about being able to stall peace and prevent the establishment of a Palestinian state. So certainly it makes a difference with who leads the Israeli government. But what's important is that while the elections could be called for, elections can go into process, that doesn't change what's happening on the ground today. This is why it's extremely important for President Biden to utilize the leverage that he currently has and restricting military aid and being forceful in his calls not for a temporary ceasefire, but a permanent and lasting ceasefire immediately. Those are the things that we're looking for from our president, because that can make the difference today. Each morning we wake up and what we find is a kill count. How many innocent men, women, and children had been killed by the Israeli government, by the IDF, utilizing American manufactured weapons. And we need to halt that immediately.
And of course, we're watching starvation as well happen. And there's a lot of groups who are sounding the alarm about what should be coming here in the coming weeks. We've just started to see this, and it's expected to balloon if the aid doesn't increase dramatically.
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? Democrats most definitely behind closed doors are panicking, right? The only reason that they're doing this is because the writing's on the wall. They must know that Joe Biden is on a crash course to lose over this issue. And that's why they're calling for regime change. And it seems like the temporary ceasefire proposal was not enough. Okay, they actually really have to withhold military aid from Israel in order to get the far left vote, or otherwise they're not going to come out and vote for Joe Biden, right? And it seems like Israel, at least Netanyahu, is not going to back down from the invasion of Gaza. So it seems like the Democrats may be effed on this situation unless they actually do withhold military aid, in which that point they probably lose the support of Jews, right? They probably lose the support of, the Jewish, interest, right, that support the Democrat Party, which I'm pretty sure is very influential, right, considering how, again, most of that party and the Republican Party as well, too, overwhelmingly supports Israel. So, again, Democrats got to choose. Which one do you want? Do you want the progressive left, okay, or do you want the support of Jewish interests, right? Which one do you want, right? Or Israeli interests, whatever you want to call it. Which one do you want? You're going to have to pick, because you're not going to be able to get both, right? So, again, either way, the outcome is probably not going to be good for Democrats. I think that they are stuck between a rock and a hard place. And this is what they signed up for, right? This is what you sign up for when you cater to the extremes of your party, okay? I mean, Biden depended on these people to come out and to vote for him against Trump. And now these same people are probably going to be the reason why he loses to Trump in 2024. Fascinating stuff. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.